Okay, mic is working. I cannot see welcome everybody. That's a closing thing. You're just been here for the whole day, but yes, feels weird. Why this talk? Well, in the last 2-3 years, I've been ended up working and visiting companies that were mostly working in the product space, and they wanted to do some domain-driven design. And it turns out that domain-driven design was born not exactly with a target in mind. And some ideas are working incredibly well, other ideas not exactly, and there's a little bit of extra, maybe instruction or warnings or surprises, or the world has changed anyway, and quite a few things. So that's the idea of this talk. And that's just already the third rewriting. I don't know if this is a good sign or a bad sign, but anyway, let's have a look at it. First thing about the starting point. Well, that's exactly what I said, except the most intriguing thing about talking about the product space was realizing that there is no such thing as the product space. There's just everybody's idea about, oh yes, we're doing product, but your product is different from mine. So many different things, like is B2B, B2C, which type of product, is it a workflow product or another thing? So many differences. And so we'll use this quite a few. Let's drill down. Let's see what we are talking about. The first thing is are we having a common mindset? Like there's something which is very specific about domain-driven design, which is the idea of continuous learning. We have all the curiosity to learn a domain, the modeling whirlpool, and all of this idea. And looks like, well, if you're doing product in a modern way, while the idea of continuous learning is completely embedded also in the new way of making products. So feels like good match, except who's doing the learning? It turns out that in many places, the learning is not happening involving the development team or the engineering team. Like somebody else is already doing the learning. We are talking with the customer. You have something to do most of the time, fixing bugs, and then also a situation where I would like to run a workshop, and we already did this workshop with the design team. Why should we do it again? And this type of situation. I don't know if you've ever been in this place where trying to access stakeholder that were whose time was already workshopped by somebody else. And so ideally, looks like there's something that it's quite similar. In practice, if you look at our modeling whirlpool, we are expecting to have a good and safe conversational space with the experts where we could iterate, discover, model together, get new ideas. And this works very well with experts. But when we go into product, one thing that changes is just, we're not talking about experts. Many times we're talking about users. The users are many, and not all of them are experts. So the voices might be filtered, collected, statistically measured, and so on. Still, the tooling is different, and also the approach. Not to mention the fact that there are different schools behind it. And one of the embarrassing thing about the schools is I was talking with one of my friends that is working as a service designer and also as a university teacher, and said like, no, in our university, basically the message is, we just need to do the learning so that the development team just does the building. And we want to be part of the learning too. And the learning is already happened, not exactly easily. So there's something to be changed. And the tools are different. Like we don't do so much customer interviews. It's just, and it's when we try to do, it turned out it was not exactly feasible because it takes so many interviews to get a signal which is relevant. And maybe we also feel like we have something more important to do than just listening to or participating to many interviews. Once, or accessing the summaries or getting the material available, that's interesting, but exactly doing it at the same time is not perfect. Still, the biggest problem is in most organizations, there's still somebody who is supposed to do the learning and to envision the new things, and somebody else supposed to do a different job. Our curiosity is not guaranteed to lead us into the right conversation. And segregated learning or second-hand learning for the development team is kind of a problem. To put it in an even nastier way, in some places, there's still some dogmatism in place, like this is the way to do domain-driven design, but also this is the way to do user research, and not to mention this is the way to do agile. And I've seen designers caged into Scrum cycles and trapped into interaction with the team that were not working well. Everything turns out to be suboptimal if you're forcing it too much. Still, we were managing to do something good by lowering down some barrier. And in general, one of the things that the message that was interesting for us is just if you can make the learning interdisciplinary, if you can have the entire team focus on the learning without so many rules like everybody should participate or somebody should, you need to do so. Well, there's something that we need to do more or less together. There's something that needs to be done, and there's some learning insights that needs to be available. A little bit less structure, a little bit less dogma made it work very well. There's also some ideas that seems to work pretty well. We did some experiments. I really like the idea of continuous discovery. This book from Teresa Torres is very, very interesting. And I really like to mix it with, she says, use a story mapping. I had, of course, the variation of playing it with process modeling, EventStorming. And that is a good support for a conversation that involves the robustness of our process design approach with the attention to feelings and needs that could come from UX. So it could work very well. So the overall message in this space for us was break the barriers, try to be in a place where the original approaches are kind of, okay, yes, that's the way to do it, that's cool, but we are in the real world. Let's do something different. So another approach that we tried, for example, was pairing between designers and developers instead of doing, well, this is my blueprint, now you have to implement the page. Just there was a lot of extra work on the designer side and a lot of extra friction into, I don't need to learn these details. What we did was basically mixing the people and the tools, putting a lot of stuff together on Miro, making everything visible, and then let's see what is the best possible interaction given the people that we have. That was working very well. The other thing that we needed to be aware was forgetting optimization. The problem with working with people from different mindset, cultures, and sometimes even different suppliers is everybody tries to optimize for their own way of delivering. And if you work as a larger team, this needs to go away. So whatever you do is never going to be perfectly optimized. You're never going to be completely engaged if you join a user interview. But once every now and then might be good. And also the team might never go at full speed. Forget what you learn about doing the max to deliver value. Your value is local. You need to think about the value of the whole value generation stream. The other idea that seemed to work pretty well, already mentioned, was putting a lot of stuff into, well, we're working remotely in quite a few situations, into shared places, large visualization tools. Well, that's an idea that was not entirely new to me, as you probably noticed, but it's also, I really like the way Jim Benson put it in the collaboration equation. It really captures the actual need, not only for modeling software, but for understanding large things, and to have a platform for a more sophisticated decision making. That's a more mature way of using those tools. So this is an example of what I mean, and I just zoomed it so that is unrecognizable in some ways, but there's a mixture of screenshots of process modeling and of notes about something which is working and not working, plus disclaimer to make readability available for people that were not part in any workshop. This is not a result of a actual workshop. This is a result of accumulating information from many sparse conversation, because that was a setting in a very remote company, and that was not, entry point was not EventStorming, was just like, we were already there and tried to make the best of the situation. But the idea was, let's have discussion about something which is visible, accessible, and without following one single notation, but everything needed to support a deeper conversation. A tool for more sophisticated decision making. So, given this, given the curiosity, given that we crossed the boundary, we also started hybridating our exploratory tool and decision making tool. Do we share the same mindset with everybody else? The answer is no. And the reason is actually this one. We are technical people. We are thinking about the solution. Whatever is the conversation, we are always thinking about this solution. We already have the code running in mind. So let's not think that, okay, that's exactly what we're doing. No, we are not. We are having the same conversation. We are listening the same words. There's something in the brain that is already designing a solution, and we cannot stop this. I mean, that's exactly what we do. That's what we are paid for. So the good idea in this space is actually, well, the idea of the product triad. It's just engineering. Our role needs to be part of the conversation, but it's not the only role in the conversation. Dynamics might be weird and changing from place to place, but that is the main idea. We need to be part of this conversation, maybe not only the third rabbit waiting for the blueprints to be defined or for the new design target to be set. Let's look at the strategy. There's another interesting difference in this space. If we are working inside an organization, we have the pleasure to and the advantage to have a straight connection between the initial exploratory phase and the possibility of detecting what might be the core domain or the most likely bottleneck in a given moment. There's a possibility of discovering also theory of constraint behind the scenes, what is the most important area to improve right here, right now. And that's powerful. That's a tool that we leverage a lot when we work with inside organization. But one thing that is not so explicit is this one. If you're working with solutions inside the organization, we have the privilege of having exactly one target. Given one business line, there's only one place which is the most important thing to do right now. We might play on different temporal horizons, one thing to do for today's market and another thing to do for the next market, but it's pretty clear what the organization needs. There are signals pointing in one direction, and we can follow this. And politically, there's a lot of complicated stuff around it, but if you go product, that's where the direction is. And instead of catching one large beast, one single problem, and solve this and see the result, we are not exactly paralyzed, but many companies were actually, oh, we need to be the cheapest possible solution. We also need to be the one with the best user experience, and we also need to be the one that has more features. And they just don't get along together. So some choices need to be done, and the signals from the market are continuously contradictory. Oh, we need to copy that feature. We need to copy that feature too. Oh, we also need to go in the digital market, but not forgetting the old customers. And this could be exhausting. So in ProductLand, there are tools for managing this uncertainty that are a little bit far away from our space. Opportunity solution trees, limb value tree, and impact mapping. Interestingly, they're not lists. All of them, they have a tree-like structure, and they are they have embedded uncertainty. Like the limb value tree has the explicit concept of bet, for example, or the logic could be wrapped around experiments. There's a double level of uncertainty. Sometimes the need is to depend from a clear vision about the strategy. This is where we want to go, and this is what we think is going to lead us in our direction. Other time, the uncertainty is a little bit more in the action. We think we have an idea. We had no idea how the market is going to respond to this, so we need to run experiments and measure. So in general, the signal to our engineering approach is if you go product development, you are in a non-deterministic space. And many engineers working inside companies, well, they like the determinism. They like the fact that this is the next thing to do. We do this, then we do this, then we can plan our strategy. And one of the consequences that I've seen in quite a few places, it just still sitting somehow in the backseat and letting somebody else lay out the strategy for you, but also taking the responsibility of, oh, well, our strategy was flawed and I was not part of the discussion. So just tell me what to do. That's not exactly the approach that works well in product space. So what we need to do is being in a place where we can do continuous experiments. This is not easy, and there's some tricks in DDD that might help. We're going to see them. But the other problem with the continuous experiment, maybe not really a problem, just a need, is that we cannot learn without reliable data. Well, kind of obvious, except I had surprising discoveries here, like where is your data coming from? And I was expecting this situation to be a little bit more settled. I'm coming up with an example, kind of obfuscated to make it non-recognizable. The reality was a little bit worse. So the scenario was we had the next generation front-end service integrating with the legacy, is not backlog, sorry, back-end application. So we had to deal with some booking. We had to discover how many bookings were transferred in a given amount of time. And the answer from the maintainers of the legacy system was, we don't have transfers. I mean, there's no idea of transfer in our system. It's a CRUD-based, well, you just cancel one booking and make another booking for the same customer. Okay, that's great. So we can run a query that detects the booking that were canceled and then done by the same salesperson for the same customer and within a given time interval. Problem solved. And the proposal was, let's run it as a data adjustment script every night. And and the following image is a picture of me when I was listening to these stories. And it was really embarrassing because what they were doing was basically injecting inside a CRUD-based legacy application, or behind it, the logic, the domain logic that was completely missing from the original design. And it was needed anyway for purposes that, we still can add it. So the thing that was really relevant, bad surprise, but also good surprise, just not all domains are the same. If we start from an anemic monolith, typical CRUD and store procedures, we know that enemy. What I didn't know was how much was happening in the BI layer. All of the domain logic that was not in the system was added as an interpretation later on. Like, oh, we can detect this as a combination, this and this and this, by different people in different teams, and sometimes also consultants from different companies. The result was questionable data with delays. Like every time we were looking at the data, we didn't know if has the correction script run already, or how valuable is this? The difference when working with a different type of architecture, the kind of we know very well, was just detecting this information was not happening anymore in the BI space, or could be done with different tools like projections. And but the difference was the fact that the data now was unquestionable. We had a domain-rich system. The events were carrying the information that didn't need any more interpretation. But the thing that I was not aware of, and was a kind of a bad surprise, was how much time was actually happening in defining this interpretation. This was a lot more expensive than having had this discussion at modeling time. We needed to find a way to interpret wrong data, and this decision was taken by, let's say, by the wrong people. I'm not going to be more explicit than this. So, well, on my side was that's actually good news. Like we've been preaching a lot, event-driven system, richer domain models, but and they worked. And they work even better. The thing that I didn't realize was how much extra budget was burned trying to correct the system downstream. And that sometimes is a very, very bad surprise. The other part of this problem is actually this one, that the data we looked at was not reliable anymore. I mean, it could have been reliable, but there were so many layers of transformation that the feeling when looking at the data was, oh yeah, but I'm not sure about it anymore. Too much meddling. Like, well, I would like to run into something which is telling me exactly what I need to see. But all the little objection, oh, but this is a data before this adjustment. Oh, this number should also consider this and this and this. All of this discussion in every round of experimentation was actually leading us in a bad place. Like if the data was questionable, then all the experiments around were not working. And the expert had their own positions and assumptions, and they were using their experience in the system to say, like, no, that's the reason why. This is not why this is happening. So the data interpretation became one of the most crucial activities, and the best tool to deal with this activity was actually this website about logical fallacies. We collected all of them. We did the logical fallacy bingo. That was exactly what happened every single meeting. No, because of that. Oh, but this book said this. We're looking at data here. Okay. So once again, product triad could be a great tool to help us in this place because theoretically, product triad helps reducing the impact of biases on strategic choices. So don't decide alone, because everybody could have at least a lot of sunken costs, something that was promised, something that was announced, some code that was written 10 years ago, and then reputation and other things at stake. You would like to decide completely in a way which is completely rational, but you cannot get rid of the emotions and the bias. More realistically, why you need a product triad is because having 3 people in the room, maybe you have one critical thinker. Second thing, or not second, I'm not even counting. This is, well, that's the last talk of the day. So I can run away if I say something badly wrong or blasphemous. But anyway, clearly, you cannot say you do domain-driven design without a ubiquitous language. We know the drill. Little recap, and going quickly so that nobody can read. But the main idea is that behind the ubiquitous language is we need clarity. We need binary precision because we want to write software. And the conversational language does not offer this precision. It is a tool that has embedded ambiguity. It's just like writing with the pen, which has rubber in it. Like, you cannot completely trust the tool. You would like to have something solid, and the conversational language doesn't offer that. So, and this was something that I learned thanks to Eric many years ago when we were teaching together, and all the word games that were part of the understanding ubiquitous language. The idea is we need to inject precision in the language so that we have a conversational tool which is as precise as the code that we need to talk. We love this idea. We love the idea of matching it with a bunch of context. Great. This is not the only paradigm on the planet. And the lane here is the canonical language. It's just the idea, it was also a misinterpretation of the ubiquitous language for many. Everybody should speak the same language. Yes, in every department, let's go this way. But it has a name, it's a competing paradigm. Some companies are wasting a lot of money on this. It's very tempting because it sounds like everybody should speak the same language. And my best example to show that this is not working is this little adapter, actually the same one that I have here. There's a very simple problem, 3 holes in the wall, and the human race still failed to find a solution for this. Everybody should speak the same language, 3 holes, okay. So yeah. Okay, so the thing that we started to understand is it works inside a bounded context. We need boundaries. We also learn how to make those boundaries more solid. Private persistence, it's mine. I can change it. I can change names of the table while learning. I can provide a safe space for experimentation. We like it. It's very, very good. Also, we had a lot of frequent interactions with the experts that many times were actually the users of our software. So the conversation was really, really rich. We could evolve our language in this area, very sophisticated, working well. And the regional battle, I think 12 years ago or even more, I had a presentation called Drive Your DBA Crazy in 3 Easy Steps. So I was really adversarial at this point. So the battle was this one, like, oh, we should have a shared database anyway, and then doing domain-driven design on top of it. And well, no, at least here, we are not doing it anymore. And it was my feeling about it, except when I started working in the product space, I started to realize, hey, there's one more thing which is not following the paradigm. And if you're exposing this to the outside, if there is people using the product, you have a language that is not exactly following the behavior of the ubiquitous language. And it's not the only one. Unfortunately, there's also another little traitor, which is the part of BI, just getting in touch with the data, pretending that we still have a shared database somewhere. But the dynamics on the surface are slightly different. So let's look at the forces and the purposes. And then I'm going to try to stay far away from Eric because I'm worried. The type of interaction with the ubiquitous language is a deep conversation. We want to understand the language deeply, down to bedrock. The concepts need to be perfectly defined. It should work like a perfect machine. On the surface, the forces are different. We're not interacting with the expert. We're interacting with users, or worse, customers. And which means like we don't have to give the perfect product for them. We need to be able to tempt them into buying it. It's not the same thing. And how does it work? Sometimes illusion of simplicity. If I have to teach you how my product is working, I already lost the customer. I need to give you a software, something with the illusion of this is working magically. There's nothing you have to learn. It's doing exactly what you want. And what you want is probably a flat canonical language in your head. Because you're not the smartest possible user, and I'm making money on this segment on the market. And so this precision could be actually working against my need as a product company. The other forces, what is driving us into the ubiquitous language? I couldn't find any other word than DDD language obsession, the curiosity of trying to understand, replaying the words in our head to find, okay, this is a narrative that perfectly fit. On the surface, the forces are different. The driving discipline is information architecture, which is still assuming a flat language. They know that it's known flat behind the scenes, but they need to make it flat to make it understood by the user. And the other other drivers. We are trying to capture the answer of a language. On the surface of a product, we need to resonate with the audience. If the audience is not the right one, we still need to be resonating. Final thing, if we have new insight, breakthrough moment, we can rename classes, we can rename internal, especially if we have a discussion with our internal stakeholders. What about this new concept? Yes, I think it's better. Rename it, put in production, let's do it. If you do it with a product, no, you don't want to change stuff. Like there's inertia that you want to keep, or maybe you want to move at a slower pace. So what I'm saying is just they are not exactly the same thing. We learn how to play with the ubiquitous language in bounded context. There's one language on the surface which is slightly different. And depending on the product type, they need to exist in different ways. So I'm expecting to see something in this way. I don't want to have translation, but there is filtering happening, concepts which are supposed not to be visible, and connection between things that move at a different pace. There's nothing really wrong in the way we are exploring what happens behind the scenes. There's something that needs to be understood and played in a different way when we are talking with the language which is customer-facing. And can we choose one? Unfortunately not. Because if we take the way of, well, the customer is always right, following what they want an access database with buttons. That's what they want at the end. And if we follow what they are gonna say, we end up with a horrible monolith once again. But if we follow what we, as DDD practitioners, have learned, I've seen some, not exactly disasters, but we understand the complexity of the model behind it. Great idea. We expose all of the complexity of the model to the users. The users are not understanding anymore the tool. The users are buying another tool which is a little bit less implemented, maybe less performing, but they understand it, and we are losing money. So that is the wrong dead end. I think the two systems can, and should coexist. A little interlude in here. It was starting from what we had at the beginning. Whenever I said, like, I would like to have a discussion about this, we had a few open space. I try to understand as much as possible. Who is interested about talking about product? Apparently, a lot of people. Then the second question is, okay, how many customers do you have? And then the answer were more or less, it's an internal product. We don't do projects, we started doing products, but we're still the same company that does the same thing. And a lot of excuses and variations, and usually only a few people in the D community are doing real products. But the question about how many customers was actually one of the most driving, full of information. So if you have 0 customer, you have a dream, you don't have a product. If you have 1 customer, you have a solution, and probably not even a good place for domain-driven design, because it's not core for them. It's probably something supporting. They are just using you, and you don't have all the possibility of having all the access with them. If you have many customers, then okay, you're probably in product space. If you have few customers, you are in the worst possible place. And this bad place was so frequent in the DDD community, at least, well, not only in Italy, but in a few other places, that we named this pattern Miranda. And actually antipattern. And the situation when you have one big customer, maybe the first customer that asks for a solution that you want to turn into a product, and they are basically grabbing you and having your backlog under control. They're giving you deadlines like you are their little puppet. And so in one way, for me, is what's the point of going product if you wanted to go product so that you didn't have one boss, now you have many that pretend to be your only boss. That's a nightmare. That's the worst possible place. So there's only one solution to this Miranda antipattern, which is the Gandalf pattern. And you have to be in a place able to say no, that no is your most important tool if you are in this space. And in some way implies that if you go product, it means like you have to take responsibilities. You cannot find yourself downstream from marketing or any other business department telling you what you need to do with a fragmented strategy. So the question, and taking another idea from DDD, how much are we downstream or upstream? I would say if you are downstream, we are probably already doomed. There's no point in doing product if you're downstream. You shouldn't be there. The end of upstream, I would say probably the best example is the book Rework, and from the guys running Basecamp. Many things could be said, but in terms of approach, it just says like, well, this is our product, like it or use something else. We are not customizing it for your need. There's something behind it, which I think it really matters, and it's a concept which is kind of floating in the air. And the idea of design integrity. And I now remember having this discussion just 1 week ago. There was a speaker on stage saying something like, well, everybody has technical debt. And everybody said, yes. And I was too slow to say, no. Or I just didn't want to troll the speaker. But internally, I don't think we have so much. Like, yeah, we have the code that is supposed to do exactly what we need to do right now, but looks like that put me in a very weird place. And but yesterday was listening to Randy when he said like, oh, we got to inbox 0 when it comes to bugs. So yeah, I know it's doable. It's just there are many other forces that should be kept under control. So one thing which made me drives me mad is the fact that we keep talking about technical debt. And there's so many problems about the technical debt metaphor. And one of them is we spend a lot of time talking about which type of technical debt. It's not debt, it just was an experiment that we decided it's an investment for the rest. No, it's tech craft, or no, this is just bad quality code. And we already wasted a couple of weeks deciding what to do with that. I prefer being in the opposite place, like using design integrity as a concept, and the idea is design integrity as fitness for purpose. Is the code that you have delivering the qualities, the features that you need? If yes, you are where you should be. But so if you can control the quality of the value you deliver, this is where you should be. Of course, I need to fall into stereotypes. This is the pizza that I would feel proud to serve in a restaurant. This is not. And I don't know if Nick is still here. No matter how much pineapple you can put on top of it, this is still crappy. But if you are in product space, the whole idea is there's an implicit idea of pride and no reason to craft an inferior product. So if you know that it just takes tuning the temperature, why don't you do it? It should be the best that you can do given your current knowledge. There might be something that you have to learn yet, fine, but if you already know something better, why not? That's what I mean for design integrity. And this is another variation of the same product. So is this better? Is this different? Well, no, different market segment. Round pizza, optimized for sitting, is better hot. If you take the square pizza, has a different dough and is optimized for walking and long exposure. It could be cooked twice. It's designed in this way. Okay, different market segment. They are both right. Different design attitude for your software. Still, we might get into weird places where what happens is somebody wants a calzone for the next week. Then the two designs become completely different. With the round pizza, okay, just takes folding. With the squared pizza, I don't know what to do. We need to redesign everything. So that's the other point of design integrity, which is the readiness for a likely future. And the likely word is tricky because we cannot be ready for everything, but we should try to do our best. There's something like a liminal space here. And to describe this, I'm going to reuse a picture that I used here many years ago, but now with a different purpose. And talking about martial art, which I clearly don't practice, there's one thing, but that I checked it's plausible. The good concept is the idea of the ready stance position. So you never start a fight like from sitting. You should be in a position which is giving you the higher optionality in terms of reaction and times of and possibilities to counterbalance what might happen. So, well, DDD gives exactly this. If your model is matching your understanding, then you are in the right possible place. If it doesn't, and you didn't update it, okay, well, the next market opportunity could drive you in the wrong place. But put it in a different way, it just there's still people moving this way. I mean, this is an actual race in the Netherlands, and people, well, everybody has technical debt. This is how we make progress. But if you are in the right place, going from A to B could actually be done in a different way. The thing that is interesting in comparing the two scenarios, in somebody who is ready exactly where they should be and they want to go somewhere else, if you're traveling on a highway by car, the questions are really simple. Where's the next fuel station? Is there a nice restaurant nearby? You're planning. You're just deciding where you want to be and the next release. If you're traveling this way, that's a completely different story. We need to find a place to camp for the night. I have a strange rash on my leg. Where is my shoe? Where is North? And where is Joe? And one of the most embarrassing situations in one product company is they had 23 teams working on the flagship product. Very mild rules around the code ownership, basically one big monolith with areas of influence somehow. Everybody knew they need to change. They couldn't decide where to start. And the most stupid idea in this case was they wanted to have unanimous consensus by everybody about where should be put the first line of good code. And I don't know why. You kept adding bad code for 20 years without asking permission, but now you want permission for writing the good one. So there's something really weird in how the human brain works. But talking about bounded context, one thing that I didn't realize that deeply before seeing this situation is the great advantage is you don't have the cost of consensus. We are solving it here. I do need to coordinate. And the cost of consensus in large organization is massive. So, well, you can keep your product small, but also if your product is bigger, you don't want to decide with too many people. We offer them a trick. We call it reverse road mapping. I'm not talking about it, but it's in the slide. So, yep. But the message is there's a road nearby, and if you want to go there, I think the best way is to walk a little bit in the mud, get to the road, get a car, and go straight. Keep moving in the mud is not exactly a great thing. And also question like, how do you remove parasites in domain-driven design? We have no answers. Like, we don't know exactly how to survive in the mud. We know how to be outside of the mud. Talking about this readiness, there's this little problem that I mentioned. Like, there's uncertainty, and there's also ambiguity here. Like, a lot of these mental biases, like how much do we know about this? So if we are really, really on a fixed plan, then feels like we are going straight into fragility. But if you are on the other side, like we need to be ready for everything, then we are getting into the trap of, well, I just added more and more layers of indirection just to be ready for whatever might happen. There's something in between, like optionality's possibility, that we can only capture if we are aligned with vision and purpose. If you are outside from this conversation, that's pretty hard. Still, we can catch all the birds, and even if we are aligned, and even if we have access to all of the information, still the information available by reading user comments, all the possible channels is too much, and we will make choices anyway, and some choices will end up being dumb, and we need to accept this. There is no perfect way, it's just a continuous bet. You cannot roll the dice and win every single time. But in terms of road mapping, the thing that we can do is be part of this conversation, because engineering is the one bringing the information of which is the direction which is viable. I'm 1 minute late, but this is short. Talking about architecture is, well, a well-crafted architecture provides more optionality. The idea of a bounded context also is the one that gives the best reaction and adjustment to our services and product. It turns out that gives the best probability of predicting where changes could happen. If the bounded context is aligned with the purpose, new purposes are not coming out of nowhere. That's what I wanted to say. A tool that we're using in this area, which I'm not going to explain exactly because, well, maybe quickly, is when we have an idea for a new feature, we play this little game. Like, okay, where should it fall? Is it something that is going to fall inside our existing model? Is it coherent? Is it coming from the same people? Okay, maybe we're going to be inflating the existing model a little to accommodate the new idea. What about the other ones? Other possibilities? No, this idea is just incoherent with the one. Let's make a little bubble already. Maybe not turn it into microservices. That would be too much. Also, other times it's just like, no, I want it to be strongly decoupled from what we have. It's a new thing, and maybe could work also on top of our competitors. It's just helping us shaping what the model is going to look like without making it look too much as an expansion of the existing one. Talking about implementation, this is where I feel like, no, this can work incredibly well. So if we are working in a kitchen, and this is where we are, the product that we're working on, is there's no reason to be messy. And the thing that we saw as a repeatable, successful approach is if you are in product, you need to have a stack of abstraction helping you. And value objects, tool number one, you need to be able to speak at the level of composability and confidence about your product that only working in this way can give you. So, time to close and end of this rabbit hole. So, the thing I could that I collected around this area is the first is there's something like the culture that we can try to overcome. Dogmatism and tribalism are there. There's quite a few discussions like agile versus design and architecture and the speed of execution. You can go past this. Second great thing is design integrity pays off. If your design is fit for purpose, then your next design is probably going to fit for purpose too. If you are there, you're going to stay there, and you can move in this direction. Keep your tools sharp. Keep your table clean. There's nothing actually not so much to say about architecture. If you are inside an organization, being event-driven is also good because speaks the language of the business, decoupling, bounded context, and so on. But when we talk about products, the products might be really, really different. So talking about event-driven and your product is a word processor maybe doesn't make any difference. But I think the thing that was really, really interesting, the space for improvement for us was breaking all the barriers, talking with people with a different mindset, creating safe spaces, private Slack channels, collaborating, sharing everything, not hiding anything, making the tools open to contamination. That was working very well. Trying and experimenting, not everything is guaranteed to work. Make the experiment explicit try again, and work. Most of this cannot be done alone. The greatest ingredient, and this goes back to what we saw with the opening keynote, seeing Eric Evans, still white-haired and exploring LLMs with the curiosity of a kid. Yes, that's exactly the secret ingredient. That's all I had to say. Sorry for overrunning a little. Thank you, and I'm still around for questions if you need. Thank you.